Hello, thank you for this opportunity for being part of Didact Talks. I'm Saurav Sinha, I'm the principal of Mayo College, Ajmer. I have for the last 9 years had the privilege of working at some of India's best institutions, both boarding and day and boarding, but primarily boarding schools are something that I'm passionate about. I am going to be speaking about a couple of things which are very close to me and I think are extremely important in our approach towards schools and how we curate our curriculum and our super curriculum and our well-being policies. The two broad areas I'd like to speak about are ensuring the well-being of children and how do we best prepare them for a rapidly changing world. So to start off with well-being, the well-being, the word well-being has suddenly, the term well-being has become extremely popular across the education world and rightfully so. How do we achieve that and what does it mean? To my mind, I have always thought of well-being as having a happy child. And by a happy child, I don't mean someone who can do whatever they want whenever they want to. So happiness as distinct from fun and joy. Happiness as a function of feeling secure in the environment you're in, knowing that you're taken care of, and trusting those around you that the advice they're giving you is going to help you, and also that they care for you, and that your well-being is their primary concern. One of the things that schools have rapidly started doing these days, which was much needed, is focusing on counseling. And towards that end, I think particularly I'll speak more in the context of residential schools, but it is valid for day schools as well. A school counselor, someone who's counseling children at school, their function is different from a counselor outside who you might hire on an hourly basis. That's because they're responsible for so many children at the same time. Quite often, the responsibility of that counselor is purely to provide what I call emotional first aid. And emotional first aid means taking care of that child's predicament and state of mind at that particular time. Also, just getting a couple of counselors on board is merely a ticking the box process, I feel. The adage I believe in is that in today's day and age, every teacher is a counselor in one or the other way. Gone are the days where a teacher felt that their responsibility was purely to come into class, conduct the academic transaction, and then, be out of class and have nothing to do with it. Every teacher has to be aware of what's happening in class, deal with the slightly smaller issues, make note of them, and as and when required, it's extremely important that they raise the red flag and let the concerned authorities and schools know. There are great systems for child safeguarding in international schools, which a lot of our Indian schools have adopted as well. And I think it is very important we do that, because what I think eventually is going to happen is that we are going to have to move from this paradigm where become successful to be happy to be successful. I think a happy child is more likely to imbibe what is told to him in class and also make the best of whatever's available to them. But finally, that where does that motivation come from? Where does that motivation to sacrifice comes from? When you read the biographies of champions in any field, be it sport, be it business, be it politics, there's one common factor which unites them, and that, apart from hard work and a basic amount of God-given talent, is sacrifice. Sacrificing things you want to do in order to do the things you need to do to be successful in the long term. We are all in today's day and age sort of even more inclined towards instant gratification, but children more so. How does one get them to make that sacrifice of the things they want to do for long-term results which may not show today, tomorrow, even next month? That's where motivation of teachers comes in. That's where motivation of coaches comes in. That's where the counselor's job comes in. And I think that really is the most important thing. I'm going to segue now to the academics from this. And when we talk of academics, I really believe, and I'm hoping that we will see some transition in this, that we have to move away from this information overload which is being given to students right from a young age. It is strange. On one side, we are talking more and more about how information is being commoditized and how anyone can get access to information. But at the same time, most parameters existing at the moment are still judging even young children for the information that they have acquired and memorized. I think the fundamental shift that needs to happen here is that we have to first, in the younger ages, try and imbibe a sense of intellectual curiosity in children. It's extremely important. And I think some of the Western education systems do this extremely well, where they're not loaded with exams. They're not given so much written or prescribed homework, let's say. Rather, they are exposed to several different facets of the world, be it science, be it music, be it sport or art, architecture, for them to really see the world and start gravitating towards a particular thing. So, for example, if you expose children and show them and more, take them to planetariums, show them more about stars, and if you have an observatory in school, I am sure there'll be children who will get fascinated with astrophysics and physics and just how these things work. Once that interest comes in, once a child says, this is what I like, this is what I want to know about, it's going to be much easier when they come into middle school for them to then start doing the grueling work which is required in the sciences and eventually choose a career which is aligned with their interests. There are some children who are blessed to have a passion and some don't have a passion, but everyone has an inclination, has an interest. And I think what's happening at the moment in our country particularly is that education is still a means to an end. We're still moving from a sense of parental insecurity of what will my child do if he does this subject, which is completely anachronistic actually. It's out of sync with today's time, because there are people who are making successful livings now in so many fields which even parents don't know about. And that's where the school has to come in, have constant interactions with parents, let them know the availability of those careers and match them with the child's interest. So what I feel is important is that in the beginning years, you expose the child to various different spheres of life, get him interested in reading, if possible. That's a challenge these days, but it's extremely important. Get them to know how to express themselves both verbally and written, in a written way, because chat GPT and all is fine, but eventually how you communicate with each other is going to be the differentiation. And I've seen that. I've worked in the corporate world for many years before coming into education, and it's really about how you communicate which makes the cutting edge, and the difference between those who go on to do really well and those who sort of get stuck somewhere in the middle. So teach them those skills in middle school, then start to get into a more in-depth study of subjects which are required. And of course, then when you come to the senior grades, 11, 12, then it becomes extremely focused and sort of completely oriented around what you want to do in life and where you want to go to college, what courses you want to take. I think that this is going to not only help create happy children, but also in the long run, when they go into college and into the world, happy individuals. Because I always give this analogy. There are kids in our school who are studying in small 10 by 10 rooms in Kota or somewhere else for 4 years, 5 years to get into IIT JEE, right? Which with itself is a fantastic place, but it's supposed to be about engineering. And then you find 60 to 70% apparently of students are getting into fields like the IAS, investment banking, or something, or marketing, something completely unrelated to engineering. So my point is that if your job is completely a means to an end, it pretty much means you're spending most of your active years doing something which you couldn't really care about, really, as long as it's giving you money. Whereas today there are opportunities of pursuing something which you really like doing or you're passionate about, and earning a good living and being in a state of happiness while you're doing it. So these are the things I feel that we need to do a lot more rethink about. I think the NEP has made some great suggestions and made some great recommendations. Also, I think this is a really good time to have these conversations because educators around the country, I've had the privilege of meeting some of them, are very open now to the fact that some change has to be made, and we're all sort of stumbling in the dark looking for what that change may be. But to my mind, if we keep a couple of these basic goals in mind, then the specifics can really, I mean, they don't need to be prescriptive. They can be specific to a particular region or a particular school or a particular demographic. And I think that's the way education is going to go in the future. Thank you.